City of Northglenn, Channel 8, keeping you informed of events in your community.
Good evening and welcome to our January 28th City Council Special Study Session. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and Joanna, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Dodge.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Escobar.
Here.
Councilmember Sowers.
Here.
Councilmember Leidy will be absent. Councilmember Downing.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Whitman.
Here.
Councilmember Duran-Mullica will be absent. Councilmember Wilford.
Here. Okay. First item on the agenda tonight is pawnbroker regulation. And with you, Heather.
Thank you, Mayor Dodge. This evening, our City Clerk, Joanna Small, is going to walk council through this item. We do have Corky Kyle, who's the president of the Kyle Group, with us this evening. The request came from Mr. Kyle on behalf of one of his local businesses, Jumping Jack Cash. So with that, I'll turn it over to Joanna.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So as the City Manager said, we received a request from a local lobbyist on behalf of a Northglenn pawnbroker business. And for a little bit of background, the city currently has 3 licensed pawnbroker businesses in the city. The municipal code currently restricts the hours and the days of operation for pawnbrokers. Pawnbrokers are not allowed to operate on Sundays or on 6 holidays. And those holidays are New Year's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas Day. So after we received the request, staff surveyed other cities to see what their regulations are, and we actually found that Northglenn is one of a few cities who still prohibit operation on Sundays. The cities that allow operation on Sundays are Boulder, Brighton, Broomfield, Commerce City, Lafayette, Thornton, and Westminster. And also to note, none of those cities that I just stated restrict holidays either. Thornton actually recently amended their municipal code in 2018 to make the change. I believe the holiday restriction was from several years ago. The last city ordinance that I can find regarding pawnbroker regulations that contains the same language that we have in the code today was from 1995. The cities that are similar to Northglenn that are restricting operation on Sundays are Denver, Inglewood, and Wheat Ridge. And regarding holidays in those cities, they're all a little different. Wheat Ridge is similar. They prohibit Sundays and holidays. Inglewood prohibits Sundays but allows holidays. And then Denver is even different from that. They prohibit Sundays, holidays, and the Monday following the Sunday on which any of those holidays might fall. So we also surveyed other staff, and there were no legal or public safety concerns with the operation of pawnbroker businesses on Sundays. Deleting, if council wishes to proceed with deleting that provision from the Northglenn Municipal Code, it doesn't require those businesses to be open. They could choose to still remain closed on Sundays or any of those holidays as well. And with that, I do want to mention one other item. When staff was reviewing the current pawnbroker ordinance, we noticed that there is language in the ordinance regarding what we refer to as a purchase price. It's the city code contains language that defines the price that a pawnbroker may charge when they are contracting for a purchase. And the current language in our code is more restrictive than state law, which usually is okay. But the Colorado revised statutes actually state that local regulations cannot be more restrictive regarding the fixed time or the fixed price. So that section of the code will need to be revised regardless of whether council desires to move forward with the permissible days of operation. So just as an FYI, you might see that coming down the line. And as the city manager mentioned, Mr. Kyle is here if council has any questions of him. Otherwise, staff is seeking direction regarding bringing forward an ordinance to allow pawnbroker businesses to operate on both Sundays and holidays. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or have discussion.
Marcy?
I didn't hear you mention, but did you, in your research, see anything around the times, like not after 9 and not before 8?
A lot of cities do regulate the hours of operation. We currently restrict it to you cannot operate after 9 p.m. or before 8 p.m. That's fairly consistent. I believe when Thornton amended their code recently, they extended that to 10 p.m. But at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. at night is generally the time that pawnbrokers are allowed to operate up until.
Any other discussion?
You want to go first?
No, I don't.
No, you don't have a question?
Not right this moment.
I'm just kind of curious, and you may not know the answer to this, but what is the thought process behind Denver not having it open on Sunday, or what our thought process was why we didn't allow it on Sundays? Is it kind of antiquated, like you can't buy a car on a Sunday, and a same kind of theory?
I believe at one point it had to be included in state statute. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know why we would have done that for our municipality and others.
Yeah, I think this is a vestige from the mid-1990s when there was both state law and local ordinances that were adopted on regulation of pawnbrokers. It is a form of blue law, if you will.
Yeah, antiquated. I want to buy a car on Sunday if you do anything like that.
And I misspoke on the hours. I just pulled up Thornton's ordinance that they recently adopted. And they used to allow their pawnbroker businesses to operate until 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then until 7 p.m. on Saturday. So they've changed that so that pawnbroker businesses can be open until 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Well, it'd be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, and then until 9 p.m. on Saturday. So it's still fairly consistent with Northglenn.
Anyone else want to weigh in? Comments?
I don't know. I just don't have a thought about it. You know, if they want it, I don't see any reason why not to extend it. Is it only one business, though, that approached the lobbyist? Or
Thus far, we've only had Corky Kyle of the Kyle Group approach the city with a request.
So
we have not actively outreach to the other two businesses at this point.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Gordon?
Thank you, Mayor. Is it that process to then work with, obviously, Denver, which is another huge municipality, to have that same conversation of it being open on Sundays as well? Or does anyone know the thought frame and what those conversations have looked like, why it hasn't come before, or has it come before?
I don't understand the question.
Could you repeat the question?
Meaning, has this come before years prior to say, can we be open on Sundays? Is it the first time they've come to say? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they're working, I'm sure, with Denver as well to see about extending.
That I don't, yeah, we don't know that. Mr. Kyle might be able to answer that question.
Mr. Kyle, would you like to come forward and maybe answer that question? Has Denver had this come in front of the council?
My name's Corky Kyle with the Kyle Group, and I represent Jumping Jack Cash. Excuse me. I'm still got a chill. I did come and present this because of the consistency around the area, that we'd like to see that everything would be standardized, so that there's an opportunity there. To say that we are in discussion with Denver, we are not at this time. At some future point, we probably will.
But there's no particular reason, sir?
Why we haven't yet. No, we just, we're business constituents up here, and we like to work with the communities that we're in. And so we're just taking each one at a time. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. Does anyone else want to ask?
It's really not a need.
Well,
Yeah.
well, there is need for the Jumping Jack Cash.
Well, I don't know if it's a need. It's not a want.
The one.
This benefits all of the pawn shops here in the area. We're not trying to single ourselves out. We're trying to go ahead and make sure that business continues to be as good as it is here in Northglenn.
Jenny?
Thank you, Mayor. Heather, you might have some insight on Wheat Ridge. I noticed that they're on the list of municipalities that don't allow pawnbrokers to be open on Sundays. Do you have any insight as to why not?
I don't, off the top of my head. I would have to ask. I think that was probably done either before I got there or at some point during my time there, but I don't recall.
Okay. I'm kind of struggling with this one a little bit because I don't understand where this is coming from or why the law is on our books in the first place. And I feel like, this is a step forward, whether it's antiquated or not. But I just want to understand more where this is coming from and why we are where we are right now.
And again, I think the reason is that this was part of the sort of first generation of pawn shop regulations in the mid-1990s. And at some point, state law changed, and then now, little by little, they're looking at changing, and we have the authority to deviate from state law, but this is an area where now, right next door, Thornton eliminated it, so I think that's the reason.
Thank you.
So I would just weigh in and say I really feel like we have a lot of other legitimate businesses open during those hours on holidays and Sundays, and I think it's definitely archaic and we should probably update it. That's my 2 cents. So if everybody's ready, would there be consensus to expand the hours of operation for pawnbrokers to include Sundays and holidays?
I don't have a problem with it at all. I think that it is probably, I don't know enough to say no, but to say yes. But I know that we, having been in Colorado as long as I have been, not revealing my age, that a lot of things have changed. A lot of things have changed as far as what's allowed on Sundays, and I feel that this is probably just not spoken about before.
Jordan? Okay. I would say you have direction to amend the ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you.
All right, our next item tonight is the proposed city manager performance goals with Heather.
Thank you.
Yes, I will email you the schedule of when it comes forward, Corky.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dodge. I drafted some proposed city manager performance goals for council to react to. Being that I'm coming up on my 6-month mark here at the city of Northglenn, and knowing that I'll have an annual performance review at some point late summer. I think my contract date is around August 20th. I wanted to get something in front of council to react to, as I mentioned. So in helping frame this conversation, I took the first year game plan that I was asked to put together as part of the interview process and provided updates. I think I colored that in purple, so I can certainly go through any of that you'd like me to. For the proposed performance goals, you can see that I outlined 5 key ones. Professional and personal development, I view as somewhat of a given. But there's really 4 key ones, and the first would be to meet with mayor and council to build trust, learn issues of importance, be responsive and equitable to each member of council, provide regular and consistent communication with city council on the city, and I'm sorry for a typo there, continue use of work plan to provide periodic updates and progress of established goals to city council and the community. And I started listing a few of the things that have been done today or are in progress. So that would be a first goal. The second goal that I've listed is build relationships with the leadership team and staff throughout the organization. So those watching from home, the leadership team consists of our city attorney, our city clerk, and then our communications manager, economic development manager, and our department directors. And then the third being become familiar with the financial condition of the city, work to learn, understand, and manage the city's budget. The fourth, move forward the city's focus on economic development and critical infrastructure. And that's intentionally written very broadly because there's a lot that fits underneath that goal in my mind. And so I've outlined 4 areas that I'll expand on, such as A, oversee the Civic Campus Master Plan, Phase 1 implementation, and then the overall facilitation of the P3 future phases. Become familiar with the city's water resources and identify steps the city needs to take to ensure available water supply. And that also encompasses current and short-term CIP projects, along with the wastewater system, and then work with Public Works, the Public Works Director, to develop CIP criteria to be used during the annual budget development and all capital assets, capital requests. And so that'll be a process that'll be coming forward for council reaction and review here within the next couple of months. And I hope to have that be a part, if I receive council buy-in, with the 2020 budget development process for CIPs. So that doesn't encompass everything that's involved in the role of a city manager by any means, but I tried to narrow it down to, again, 4 key focuses in terms of my first year. And then I would imagine and hope that as part of the work of the subcommittee with Joe Mattoon working on the performance evaluation tool, that these are flexible enough that you can work with these and have discussion with Joe. And just as we move forward leading into my first review, there's that open line of dialogue. And if there's something that you believe absolutely needs to be here, I'd like to have that discussion tonight, just so there's no surprises. But otherwise, I view this as more open, more of an open dialogue, and can be refined as we move towards the first review, and then certainly in out years be as specific as you'd like to be with what those goals look like.
I have a question.
Sure.
The document that you're looking at, do we have a copy up there? Because I didn't bring it. Don't worry about it if you don't. I'll leave.
Yes, we can get you a copy. Okay, you've got it.
I'm
Okay.
good. I'm good.
Sure.
I think that this is perfect timing, Heather, because we are meeting on the evaluations. And, you know, as we talked the last time that we met, there definitely has to be a distinct difference between the kind of things that we have for the city manager and that we have for our other employees.
Right.
So I think it's great timing.
Yeah, I did do some research in looking at, sometimes during the recruitment process, councils are very specific as to what they want their manager candidates to focus on. So I did look at some other cities and their processes, but really tried to customize this to reflect my first year game plan. And you'll see on page 2, I have ongoing focuses, and you know, under 3, there's hire a public works director, and you know, there's a multitude of different ways I could write goals to try to encompass as much as possible, but I felt that these were key things that I need to be doing within my first year in order to keep the organization moving forward, and to keep that line of communication and create that overall stability that I talked about during the interview process.
Can I ask you a question on
Sure.
your professional personal development?
Yes.
That you're working to become a credentialed manager with ICMA. So as much as I know about ICMA is what it is. So tell me what it means to be a credentialed manager.
So the credentialed manager process through ICMA, what that means in an equivalent would be a city planner being an AICP certified, and so you demonstrate through a commitment to ongoing learning and competence. Competence meaning that you take an applied knowledge assessment, which is a test online that covers certain areas. So budget, financial planning, information technology, public processes, human resources management, covers those different competency areas. And you need to, there's no real benchmark in terms of your score, but you need to demonstrate improvement in taking that applied knowledge assessment and then application to what you're doing within the workplace. You also make a commitment to 40 hours of ongoing continuous learning. So when I attend conferences, such as next week, I'm scheduled to go to the Colorado City County Management Association conference for a couple of days. I'll be participating in a one-day workshop for new city county managers. And so the applicability of what I learn in that session and how I bring it back to the city of Northglenn. And each year as a candidate, and even when you do become a credentialed manager, you need to submit a report to ICMA where you outline the activities, the steps that you've taken in doing so. Becoming a credentialed manager is really important to me because I think it helps demonstrate the value of what a public manager can bring to a community. Again, being an ICMA member, I'm held to the ICMA Code of Ethics, which again is another way to reinforce the value that professional managers can bring to a community. And so that in and of itself, for me, is going to be a little bit of a longer process because I'm a new manager, so it'll take about 5 years for me to actually gain that credentialed manager status, but you got to start at some point. And so I was very excited to be accepted as a candidate back in the fall based on the previous work experience I have.
I think it's wonderful. Yeah. I think you're going to knock it out of the park. So I just wanted to hear a little bit more about it and the incentive that you had to do it. So great.
Thanks.
Anybody else have any comments for Heather? No? Do you want to keep? Oh, Jenny?
Just briefly, I think this is a fantastic list. Thank you for being so thorough and so thoughtful and putting it together. I think it's going to be really helpful as we move forward.
You're welcome. Anything that's missing? Okay.
I couldn't find a thing.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, you are amazing.
Well, go ahead and thank you. Test it with the subcommittee and see how it shakes out. And yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay.
One thing?
Sure.
I think that it's really important to, when we do meet again, that we talk to Joe about that and how this is your first year in and how do we handle first year in candidates,
right.
You know? If we're going to have the things that we talked about last week, you know, I don't want to, or the last meeting, I just didn't even think about that. I'm sorry.
All right, and then the final item tonight is the proposed Adams County Youth Initiative membership.
Thank you, Mayor Dodge. After I started here at the City of Northglenn, I was approached by Becky Hoffman, who's the Executive Director of the Adams County Youth Initiative, to serve on their Community Leaders Council. They're taking a bit of a different approach with their Community Leaders Council this year in terms of really trying to engage city county managers as well as other CEOs through private businesses, nonprofits throughout Adams County. So the request of me is that the city join. I would serve on the Community Leaders Council, as I mentioned, and that would involve a membership fee of $5,000. I wanted to bring this forth to council for a couple of reasons. Number one, I understand in the past that the city has contributed funding to ACYI, more I think in the form of a sponsorship or donation. And because they have tweaked the approach to the Community's Leader Council, I felt it was important to bring this request forward rather than me just going ahead and paying for it out of my manager budget. I do have the funding available. It wouldn't require any type of supplemental budget appropriation. I think part of my perspective on this is I think it's worth me being involved for a year because of the research that I've done and in finding that several of my colleagues in other cities are serving on the council themselves or they've appointed either a member of their police department or some other staff member within the city manager's office. It does involve a quarterly commitment, I think in an annual estimated time frame of about 20 hours. So that's something I will definitely need to assess whether or not it's a good fit for me or if it's a better fit for someone else within our organization to serve on this council. So that's the request. I wanted to bring it forward and make sure I had support in pursuing this. They do have a kickoff session this Friday, and you know, our level of involvement is really going to be based on how involved I choose to be with the organization. There's an opportunity, given that ACYI is very data driven and results outcome focused based on the problems that the members want to solve. Given that we have 14 schools within our community, I think it's important that we have a level of involvement. So again, going back to my thinking of let's give this a try for a year and see the value that we get out of it. I think it will allow me to be part of a broader group of individuals that will be not only a resource to the community and either current or potential problems, you know, challenges such as school traffic come to mind, and are there opportunities for me to tap into this group and really help find ways to continue to manage those types of impacts from the broader sense. So that's the request tonight, and I'm seeking council support to go ahead and do this for a year, and then we would, I'd bring feedback through the 2020 budget process and budget for it through that step if I feel like it's of value for the city to continue.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments?
Kick it off. I think it's a great idea, Heather. I believe in the Adams County Youth Initiative, and I know they do great work. And as a new city manager, I think your face should be out there. I think we should be represented in this field. I look at the number of people who are on this list, and I'd like to see your name up there. You'll do great work.
Anyone else?
Yes, I also support it. We were involved with them before, and they definitely adhere to best practices, and they look at the different issues that the youth have, such as alcohol and you know, that type of thing, drugs. Try to find out at-risk behaviors at home or whatever it might be. So I definitely support what you're doing. Like I said, we funded it before. And then we came into a situation where budget crunches and that type of thing. So we had to make some choices at that point. But definitely, I think it's a good thing to do now. So.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hey. I was just saying, I agree 100%. Anything for the youth. Any way that we can help, I'm all for it. And I think you're a great candidate for it.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mayor. So I also support this. I know that Mayor Pro Tem Esquivel and I have attended their ACYI's breakfast many years now, and more recently I was able to interact with their TEGA program, and TEGA stands for Technology Empowered Girl Ambassadors, and in particular I did an interview with a Northglenn High School student in Ward 4, and they were absolutely exceptional. I think the work that they're doing, the way that they're so data-driven, I think they're really making a difference for youth as well as families in Adams County, all the way from cradle to career. So I'm really excited that you brought this forward and that you're going to be able to participate. I also really love that, you know, as a city, we're starting to think more about regional collaboration. I mean, starting, you know, with many of the relationships we've built, but I mean, more recently with CC4CA, I think even with ACYI, I think that we're all recognizing that it takes all of us to make an impact in so many different ways. So I'm really excited about this, Heather. Thanks for bringing it forward.
You're welcome. In the TAKA program that Councilmember Wilford just mentioned, I did send you all an email this afternoon. That program is taking place this Thursday, if you'd like to attend.
Any other comments? No?
Okay.
I would assume then that she has our support for the $5,000 financial investment and the membership for ACYI.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're just making people happy everywhere.
Nice, yeah. All right, well, as of that, we're adjourned from the study session. Thank you.
Don't we, is Ralston House this?
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
Thursday.
This Thursday.
Yes.
That's
City of Northglenn, Channel 8, keeping you informed of events in your community.
Good evening and welcome to our January 28th regular City Council meeting. I would like to call the meeting to order, and Joanna, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Dodge?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Escobar?
Here.
Councilmember Sowers? Here. Councilmember Leidy?
Here.
Councilmember Downing? Here. Councilmember Brown?
Here.
Councilmember Whitman?
Here.
Councilmember Duran-Mullica is absent. Councilmember Wilford?
Here.
Thank you. Would you stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to insert a special item. Mayor Pro Tem Escobar would like to share a few words about a really great resident that passed.
So today early in the morning, about 9:30, I guess, CPAM volunteer and longtime resident of Northglenn, Jesse Hope, passed away. I would like us to observe a moment of silence. You'll bow your heads. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you, Antonio.
Jesse was a great part of the community, and he will be missed. He is somebody that was always in a great mood and just there to help out all the time. So it's definitely a loss for the city. Thank you for that. And we will move. Is there any response to citizen inquiry this evening?
No, Mayor Dodge.
Thank you. Are there any agenda additions or deletions from the council? No, then we will move to an interview for the Planning Commission with Mindy Petter. Mindy here? She not here?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. She did confirm to be here tonight. We don't know if she's running late or not.
Oh, okay.
I might ask that if we could defer, and if she does show up, we could just change it. Thank you.
That's perfect. Thank you. I was just going to say she was hired because her resume was ridiculous, and how would we say no to her? But besides for that, okay, thank you very much. We will move to public invited to be heard, limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements shall be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. Is there anyone who would like to speak at the podium? No one? Okay. All right, then we will move to our Legislative Policy Committee update. And who's going to take the lead? Are you going to take the lead? Okay, Jen?
Thank you, Mayor. The Legislative Committee met this evening and took a couple of positions, and I'm just going to briefly go over those. So first, for House Bill 1033, this is local governments may regulate nicotine products. We are going to support that, and Julie Mullica will be testifying in support of that bill on behalf of the city I believe, on Wednesday. Secondly, we will be supporting House Bill 1084, which is notice to property owners whether area is blighted. Next, we will be supporting House Bill 1085, grants for property tax, rent, and heat. And then finally, we'll be supporting Senate Bill 8, which is the substance use disorder treatment in criminal justice system. Outside of reviewing bills, we want to remind everybody that that in lieu of a study session, next Monday we'll be hosting the legislative dinner at Perry's Pizza, I believe starting at 6 p.m. So we look forward to seeing you all there. We did not develop a formal agenda for the meeting and instead chose to keep it informal and have the representative and the senator speak a little bit about their priorities and then allow time for council members to ask questions and for us to have a discussion. Thank you. That's all.
Are there questions?
I do have one, and I just didn't catch the title on House Bill 1084.
That one is notice to property owners whether area is blighted.
Do you know anything about that at this point? Or?
I'll defer to Corey since he's been very much involved in drafting that one.
This is a bill related to urban renewal. There was a case out of the federal district court that had concerns that Colorado statute didn't give notice when property owners' property was and was not blighted. And so this simply fixes that by inserting a notice provision in the existing Urban Renewal Act.
Great. Okay, thank you. It makes me nervous when urban renewal bills come forward.
As well it should.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Could you repeat the last one, Jenny?
Yes, I believe that was Senate Bill 8. And that one concerns substance use disorder treatment in the criminal justice system. Okay. And as a reminder, Jeff does send out a weekly report, and it'll say bill dossier, and you can always click on that link if you want to read the bills more in depth. And of course, you're always welcome to join us at the legislative policy committees.
Okay. Can I ask a question, Jenny?
Of course.
Did we take a position on HB 1086, which is the plumbing inspection?
We did not at this time.
Okay, so you're staying neutral on that. And then how about HB 1096, Right to Rest Act?
We're not. We're still exploring both of those bills and want to get some questions answered before we took a formal position.
All right, that's perfect. Thank you. And then the last one would be the HB 1119, the police records.
We have also not taken a position on that one and have some pending questions as well.
Thank you. All right. Are there any other questions? No? Then we will move to consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Sorry.
Waiting on her.
I know. Slacker.
I'll close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right. We will move to ordinances first reading. Joanna, would you read the title of CB 1919, please?
A bill for an ordinance amending several sections of Chapters 7, 9, and 14 of the Northglenn Municipal Code concerning parking, nuisances, and animals.
Move for approval.
Second.
Heather, would you supply the background, please?
Thank you, Mayor Dodge. Brooks Sabota, our planning director, is here this evening, and I'm going to ask him to provide council with an update. Being that I'm getting over my sickness, I'm going to try to save as much for later.
Okay. Hi, Brooke.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be very brief. So about a year and a half ago, we updated the nuisance animal and parking regulations, and in the intervening time, we've identified a couple of errors where we need to correct or refine, and also we had a couple of instances where we actually inadvertently didn't carry something across from the original version to the new version. And so essentially what this is a cleanup and also to bring us into some updated references to state statutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I just mentioned for the public is that we've identified each individual amendment and what the implications are behind it. At the public hearing, I'll have staff available to answer any specific questions you may have on any of the amendments. Largely, what we're trying to do is tighten up what we have seen as potential loopholes or people trying to overexploit a potential provision and trying to close those in order to have more efficient enforcement.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Questions from council? None. Thank you very much. Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CB 1919 on first reading passes unanimously.
Thank you. And I would like to note for the next bill, CB 1920, there is a page of errata that is included in the council packet. One page, it's page 51 of 303 in the packet of the UDO. This page has not been included in the version that we have in our packet. but I would like this page to be included. When you make the motion, it will be included, and if anyone has issues with what's in the errata, we can talk about it during discussion. So if you're making the motion, it is including this errata
So we
page.
don't have to read it?
Correct.
You already read it, though, didn't you?
All right.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Second.
Heather?
Thank you, Mayor Dodge. Brooke Sabota, our planning director, then Eric Enzi, one of our senior planners, is here this evening, and they'll provide you with an overview of this item.
So as the mayor quickly referenced, and I'll have Eric fill in on the details, what we're talking about tonight is that in the erratum, there are some corrections, like typo errors, and there's some policy discussion as well that we wanted to at least brief you on that aren't in the version that would otherwise be in the final version based on the motion that you made tonight. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Eric to kind of walk you through that.
Good evening, Mayor Dodge, members of the City Council. Staff is presenting to you Council Bill 1920 on first reading this evening. The proposed ordinance repeals Chapter 11 of the zoning ordinance, Chapter 12 of the subdivision regulations, Chapter 21 of the sign code, and replaces them with a new unified development ordinance as Chapter 11, along with the concurrent adoption of the zoning map. Second reading and the public hearing for the adoption of the UDO is scheduled for February 19th. Attachment 2 of your staff report is kind of what we've been referring to here as the errata sheet. Basically, this summarizes a number of clerical errors or clerical corrections that we have noticed and some other more substantive changes since the adoption draft was presented to the public. The idea would be to go ahead and incorporate those changes into the document and present those to you at second reading and public hearing. If there are any items on the list that you'd like to discuss, I'm happy to talk about those. If you'd like to go through the list, we're happy to do that as well. Tarek is here from Clarion Associates. We can answer any questions you may have on any of those items. One item that is not on the errata sheet, but we did notice needs to be corrected, and I wanted to bring it up this evening because we'd like to include this as, when we come forward on second reading, is the definition of short-term rental. The definition currently reads, the rental of an entire dwelling unit for monetary consideration for a period of less than 30, a period of time less than 30 consecutive days. In ongoing staff discussions on the development of licensing requirements for short-term rentals, which is a separate bill that will be brought to you guys in the future, separate from the UDO. Staff noticed that this definition only refers to entire dwelling units being considered short-term rentals. Past discussions that we've had with council and with the task force and with the planning commission have been to allow for rooms or converted basements or the like to potentially be considered for short-term rentals. Staff is recommending that this definition be modified to allow for rental of a portion of a house as well as the entire house as a short-term rental.
Eric, can I jump in one?
You sure can.
Even though that definition would be amended, the short-term rental ordinance in draft form still addresses the concerns council has identified about accessory dwelling units. So the language that identifies the portion would not in any way change the fact that we're going to address whether accessory dwelling units can be used.
Staff is seeking direction from council to incorporate the items in the errata sheet in the version of the UDO presented at second reading on February 11th. And that concludes staff's presentation. Like I said, we can walk you through those if you'd like to. If you have any questions on any of them, we'll be happy to answer that for you.
All right. At this time, does anyone have questions on the errata page? None. Thank you, Eric. Any questions before we move forward with a vote to set the public hearing on the UDO? None? Okay. Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1920 on first reading passes unanimously. And I would like to know for the record that the public hearings on both CB 1919 and CB 1920 will be held on February 11th, 2019 here in City Hall Council Chambers.
Thank you. And I would like to reiterate to the public that that will be your chance, your last chance, February 19th for the public hearing and second reading. If you have any issues with the UDO, that will be your chance to be heard. So just want to make sure that the public is aware of that date. Thank you. All right, we'll move.
The 11th or the 19th?
The 11th. Did I say the 19th?
I just want to make sure we say the date.
I thought you said the 19th. I was listening to Eric over you. I shouldn't have done that, right? Okay, let's do it again then. February 11th, is that correct? It's February 11th? Correct. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So the public hearing and second reading is on February 11th. I stand corrected. Thank you very much. All right, we will move to resolutions. CR7. Joanna, would you read the title, please?
A resolution accepting a grant award from the Colorado Department of Local Affairs Defense Council First Appearance Grant Program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Heather?
Thank you, Mayor Dodge. Paula Jensen, our Management Services Director, is with us this evening, and she can provide short background about this grant award.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Paula Jensen, Director of Management Services. This is a resolution to accept a grant award received from DOLA, the Department of Local Affairs. It is in, these grant funds are in response to House Bill 1309 that required municipal courts to provide counsel for defendants in custody where the charged offense includes a possible sentence of incarceration. This was an unfunded mandate. As a response to that unfunded mandate, House Bill 1353 passed, which provided this grant funding. The municipal court applied for the grant funds. We were awarded an amount of $5,220. That was based on a 1-month study that DOLA did. They took the number of defendants we provided counsel to in August, multiplied it by $75 an hour, came up with $435 a month, multiplied that by 12, $5,220. We have until September of 2023 to use these funds, and we can reapply for additional grant awards annually.
Okay. Questions? What happens if we don't, or if we go over that amount?
If we go over that amount, the city then will provide the cost to that, and we have put money in the budget to cover those costs. So the awards that will, the grant award that we'll receive will offset what we've already put in the budget.
You know how much was budgeted on top of that?
I do.
5,000? It's okay, you can tell me later.
I believe it was between 10 and 13,000 annually. And so we spent in August $435. So we won't exhaust, based on that 1-month study, we won't exhaust what we put in the budget, and we should actually recoup what we do spend on an annual basis, unless something skyrockets with defendants in the jail that need counsel.
All right. Is there any comments, discussions? No? Well, I want to make a comment because I didn't agree with this in the first place, the unfunded mandate. I didn't like it, and so now it's coming through as taxpayer dollars paying for it. So I'm not thrilled. I wouldn't deny the grant money for the city, obviously, but I just wanted to make my feelings be known. So that's that. Thank you, Paula.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR7 passes unanimously.
Thank you. We will move to CR9. Joanna, the title, please.
A resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Thornton and the City of Northglenn for a shared victim services program.
Move for approval.
Second. Heather?
Thank you, Mayor Dodge. Chief May is with us this evening, and he'll provide you with a background on this item.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Council. Actually, I'm going to defer to Vita, who is our Victim Services Supervisor for both Thornton and Northglenn, so I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Vida Herrera. I am the Victim Service Coordinator for both cities of Thornton and Northglenn. We have been a shared service since, and I hope I'm getting all these numbers right because I didn't bring anything up with me, 1987. There's been a shared IGA between both cities to provide these services. In 2017, we served 9,082 victims total for both cities of Thornton and Northglenn. We know both cities are busy and both cities are growing in population, whether it's daytime population or just resident population. We currently have 4 staff advocates and myself, so it makes us a team of 5. The new IGA is going to cover us for the entire 2019 year. With that said, I did apply for some additional funding. Our unit is currently funded by the VAIL grant, which is the 17th Judicial VAIL grant, as well as a VOCA grant. It's a state grant distributed by DCJ. With that funding, we cover 3 of our 4 staff advocates. Myself and 1 other advocate are 100% city funded. So the other advocates are funded percentage-wise. I applied for an additional funding through VOCA. That funding is a 2-year grant that will cover 4 advocates. So let's add this all up. It gets a little confusing. So currently there's 5 staff, 5 advocates, including myself. We will add an additional 2. One of those advocates will be a sex assault advocate. 80% of that person's caseload will be sex assault cases. As we know, sex assaults have gone up nationwide in reporting. The statistics still remains the same. 1 in every 4 women, 1 in every, I think it's 8 men, statistically are sexually assaulted in their lifetime. We've been seeing in law enforcement, as well as in nonprofits, that people are coming forward. They're talking about it. They're seeking resources and things like that. We want to make sure to be able to fill those gaps. And so that grant that I wrote will specifically have 1 sex assault advocate, where all the other advocates can also have sex assault cases, of course. This 1 advocate will be specialized in that. 80%, like I said, of that person's caseload will be working with victims of sexual assault. So really making sure that those services are geared towards what they're experiencing and their victimization. The other advocate will take on regular cases, everything that victims might experience as a victim of a crime. And so in total, we would be a unit of 7, including myself. So 6 of those people will be carrying cases and working directly with victims. The VOCA grant will cover 4 of those advocates. The VAIL grant covers 1, and then our 2 city-funded advocates. So really, it's a huge benefit to both cities, this new funding coming in. It also is going to be able to provide us more training opportunities that we wouldn't normally have with our budget. So if you see in the IGA, the numbers look a little bit higher than they were last year. That's where that comes from, is we're getting 2 additional advocates with this funding. We're hoping that this grant stays available to us year after year, like VOCA and VAIL have both been. I think that's all I have for you. Is there any questions or concerns that I can answer?
Questions? No? None? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Council does have no questions, correct? Correct. All right, Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR9 passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, we will move into our discussion items, which is, the first is Colorado Legal Service Pilot Program. Heather.
Thank you, Mayor Dodge. This evening, I'm bringing this item before you. This was an item that during the city manager transition back in the summer slipped through the cracks. So this program, other neighboring entities have signed on to as part of a 2-year pilot. The neighboring communities of, well, certainly Adams County, Westminster, Thornton, Federal Heights, Brighton, Commerce City, Aurora, and the city and county of Broomfield. There is an opportunity for us, if council desires, and that's the direction I'm seeking, whether or not you desire to be a party to this IGA. I do need to work out the logistics with Adams County. I wasn't able to do that prior to this evening, but there's an opportunity to be a party to the IGA. I would need to get confirmation on what the dollar amount would look like. Previously, when the city had been invited to initial discussions, the amount was looking at about approximately $15,000. So I don't have confirmation on the amount. If it's within that ballpark range, we would have the ability to absorb that within our 2019 operating budget for this year. Again, I apologize that this slipped through the cracks and didn't come forward, but there has been significant interest on a regional level about this program, and I have been asked by Mayor Dodge and individual council members about it, so I wanted to try to get this to you as soon as I could. Brooke Zavoda, our planning director, is here this evening, and he can help answer questions. I did talk with John Asher, the executive director of the CLS program this morning, and certainly they're more than happy to have us become a party to the IGA. I would just have to work out the final details of what that amount would look like. They have not yet advertised the program. They're working on getting the advertisements out late this week. So we would, if council desires to be a party to the IGA, have the opportunity to make sure our logo's included in any type of promotional material. So a couple updates from what was included in the original information provided to you. They have, the partners have added an Irving Street Library location by appointment only in Westminster, in addition to the Adams County Justice Center over in Brighton. So that's one shift from the information that was provided. Right now, the total IGA commitment's $182,000, and again, I think our share would be in the range of about $15,000 based on initial discussions going back to May of 2018. I just need to get confirmation on that. So I'm bringing this item to you this evening to see if council has interest in becoming party to the IGA, and then I would work out the logistics with our neighboring communities on making that happen.
Thank you. Questions or discussion? None, so are we directing Heather to move forward then?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Mayor Dodge.
And then the next item is also with Heather, the cancellation of the March 4th, 2019 study session.
This might be an easy one. Maybe I shouldn't speak.
Is there consensus to cancel the March 4th, 2019 study session?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so Kim Rayner, communications manager, sent out an invite to all of you for the special event that we have planned that evening, inviting Lieutenant Colonel Laura Richardson, who used to be a Northglenn resident, to come speak at our theater. Tickets, we'll have a limited number of tickets. It'll be first come, first serve, available to the public via our theater programming staff, and it should be a great event.
Thank you. We look forward to that. Well, thank you. We will move to communications. Jenny, you can start tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 3 items. First, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge Spencer, the young man right in the front row, blue shirt, can't miss him. He is a Northglenn resident and a senior at Mountain Range High School, and you all had the opportunity to meet him this evening. He is doing a senior summit project on his personal passion, which is local government. I find that really both refreshing and encouraging. He will be completing a minimum of 25 hours, both doing his own research and meeting with council members as well as city staff, including Heather and Joanna. You'll see him next at the legislative dinner. He'll be joining us for that event as well. So thank you, Spencer, for taking Northglenn up as your project. Second, I just wanted to highlight that tomorrow I'll be volunteering for the point in time count. For those of you who may not be familiar with the point in time count, it's a snapshot of Metro Denver on a single night. So it started this evening at sundown, and it'll go to tomorrow at sundown. And it essentially helps communities understand the trends and respond to the needs of people experiencing homelessness. And finally, on Wednesday evening, I'll be heading to New York City to attend the Women's Leadership Retreat hosted by the Young Elected Officials Network, and I'm really excited to get to meet other young women elected officials and learn from their experiences, as well as have a conversation and learn more about how we tackle issues that impact our girls and women. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcy?
Just a couple items tonight. I wanted to thank Heather and staff for getting signs out on Lincoln Street. Many of you may recall we had residents that were here a few weeks ago voicing some concerns about parking issues at the reserve, and I really appreciate how attentive Heather has been into addressing that and trying to find some solutions. I know it's been challenging, but I appreciate you sticking with it on that. And then a couple weeks ago, I went to the a cappella fight scene. They were here from Florida. It was their first time visiting, and you may remember it was a big snowstorm for them. So I'm not sure that was the greatest experience, but they were good, and pretty much the room was a little over half full. So I think that was really good. And just a reminder, the a cappella series is monthly through May, and so there's a different group that's featured each month. They're really good. I'd encourage you to get out and attend one of them. That's all.
I've had my say for the day. I just hope the community can rally and support Joe in any way that they can.
Thank you. I have two items tonight. So the CML board has finally appointed Kevin Baumer as the new executive director, effective April 1st, which is April Fool's Day, which we've mentioned to him a few times. But so we're very excited about that. Sam will retire on March 31st, and then Kevin will take over. So we're really looking forward to moving, I don't know, just doing great things with Kevin. He's got a different set of eyes, he's a different personality, and Sam is amazing in his own way, but it's going to be a different organization, and I look forward to seeing what it's going to become. And actually, Heather, on that note, I'm wondering if we can do a proclamation for Sam for his service to cities and towns. That would be great at an upcoming meeting. Thank you. And the other item is that our social media staff, our videographers, Summer and Kim and Olivier with First Light, we did a video on water and wastewater. And it is a really informative video. I finally got to see the final edit. It will be on social media soon, so you get to see it. It shows you where the water comes from, where it goes. There's great graphics. They really went above and beyond on the editing. I think the final product will really help residents understand the water and wastewater a lot more. So I'm really glad that we could do something informative like that.
They actually don't have. Just remind everybody about the ribbon cutting for the Ralston House. I knew you were going to mention it, so. No, okay, so that's this Thursday from 4:30 to 6, I believe it is.
Yes.
They'll have tours at 4:30 to 5, and then they'll have the ribbon cutting and the formal at 5 o'clock. We're very excited. This has been a long time in coming, and everybody has worked so hard, but it's wonderful. You know, and the Ralston House board is very appreciative of everything the city has done. And while I'm mentioning it, we were at the meeting the other day, and there was a I just lost his name. Let me think about this a minute. Okay, never mind. So anyway, we're really appreciative of everything everybody has done. So thanks.
Thank you. How does the finished product look? I haven't toured it since it's done.
It's great.
Really great.
Furniture is moved in, you know, it's all new, and everybody's, we've actually had a few clients, which is, you know, already as tested. We had one young gentleman came in and actually initiated the house. I won't tell you how, but he was a young guy, so, you know, okay.
Well, I look forward to seeing it.
Yes.
So. Meredith?
On Thursday, I was happy to welcome a new business to Ward 1. The Red Ear Studios is a really great small business in the business park, industrial park over there. And it's so great. So if any musicians or bands or even individual musicians want to rent studio space, they've done a lovely job renovating it, and it's a lovely space. So that was really fun. I was over there with Debbie Tuttle and Shannon Fields and cut the ribbon on Thursday. It was fun.
Thank you. Jordan?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Nothing?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Joanna?
I have nothing tonight, Mayor.
Heather?
Just one quick thing, Mayor Dodge, our snow procedures calls for storm events of 8 inches or greater that we make a pass down every residential street. So we were really close to that today, and so you may have seen our crews out doing that into this evening. So recognize today's storm has been impactful. Many of you experienced longer commutes to work, but our crews just did go ahead and do that this afternoon into the evening, and hopefully streets are a bit clearer.
All right. Corey?
Nothing tonight.
Nothing tonight? All right. We'll just move to our last public invited to be heard, limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Statements should be related to an item previously addressed by council during the meeting. Is there anyone who would like to come forward? Spencer doesn't want to talk? No? Thank you for being here, Spencer.
You'd get extra credit.
No, don't believe her. All right. All right, well then I will make a motion to adjourn the regular city council meeting to enter into executive session pursuant to section 4.5 parent D of the City of Northglenn Home Rule Charter for legal consultation and advice. So, Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
Vote's open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and the motion to adjourn to executive session passes unanimously.
Thank you, and we will meet in executive session right across the hallway. Thank you.